Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why sometimes you just know something, and other times you are completely unsure? Well, new research is diving deep into how our confidence plays a role in how we change our minds, especially when the world around us changes. So, what is this prevalence-induced concept change, or PICC effect, that scientists are talking about? Imagine you have a concept in your head like what a dog is. Now, imagine the world suddenly starts showing you way more cats and way fewer dogs. Does your idea of what a dog is start to change, even just a little bit? Well, studies show that yes, it can. Your concept of dog might actually expand to include things that are a bit more cat-like, just because you are seeing so many more cats around. This is the core idea of PICC, the environment changing how we understand things. But people are different, right? Some people are super adaptable and others stick to their guns. The big question in this study is, does our confidence in our original idea affect how much we change it when the environment shifts? The researchers had a hunch. They thought that if you are really confident about your current understanding of something, you'll be less likely to change it when the environment throws you a curveball. Makes sense, right? If you are totally sure about your dog concept, you're probably not going to start thinking a cat is a dog just because you see more cats. They thought the more confident you are, the less PICC happens. To test this, they used a clever experiment. They showed people different shapes, and these shapes range from really round, which they called Bouba, to really pointy, which they called Kiki. So, Bouba was the target concept. The participants' job was to quickly judge if a shape was a Bouba or not a Bouba. Now, here is the key part. They messed with the frequency or prevalence of these shapes. Most participants started in a situation where Boubas and Kikis were shown about equally often, a 50-50th split. This is like the baseline, where people formed their initial concept of Bouba. Then, for some participants, the number of Boubas dropped dramatically down to just 10% of the shapes shown, while Kikis became much more common. This is the decreasing prevalence group. Others stayed in a stable prevalence condition where it stayed 50-50ths. After each judgment, and this is super important, participants were asked to rate their confidence in their answer on a scale from 1 guessing to 7, absolutely sure. They weren't told if they were right or wrong, just asked to judge the shape and then say how sure they were. And guess what? They found the PICC effect. In the group where Bouba prevalence dropped, people started calling more of the pointy Kiki shapes Bouba than they did before. Their concept of Bouba had basically expanded to include some of these previously Kiki shapes. Just because the rare Boubas made the whole category seem more intense or important, this confirmed that the PICC effect was happening in their experiment, just like in previous studies. Now, for the main event, how did confidence play a role? Remember the hypothesis, high confidence should mean less changing of concepts. But here is where things got interesting and completely flipped the script. They found that higher self-reported confidence before the prevalence shift actually predicted more concept change after the shift. That is, the people who were more confident in their initial Bouba judgments were more likely to start calling Kiki shapes Bouba when the prevalence changed. It was the exact opposite of what they predicted. They even used another, more technical way to measure confidence. They used something called drift diffusion modeling, which looks at how quickly and accurately people make decisions. One of the things this model can tell us is something called the decision boundary. Think of it like how much evidence you need to be convinced. A wider boundary means you need more proof, making you more cautious and less likely to change your mind quickly. And guess what? This decision boundary measure, when looked at before the prevalence shift, showed the exact same pattern. Wider decision boundaries before the shift were linked to more concept change after the shift. So, two different measures of confidence pointed to the same surprising result. Higher confidence led to more, not less concept change. So, why might this be happening? The researchers propose a really cool idea. They suggest that when we're highly confident, especially in complex environments where we aren't explicitly thinking about the rules changing, we tend to rely more on our gut feeling or an intuitive decision strategy. High confidence kind of signals to our brain, hey, you are good at this. Go with your gut. This makes us more open and sensitive to the cues in the environment, including the shift in prevalence. Our concepts become more flexible. On the flip side, when we're less confident, it might act as a signal to slow down, think more carefully, and use a more deliberate decision strategy. This encourages us to hold on to our existing, more certain concepts, making us less likely to be swayed by the environmental change. It is like the doubt makes us double check and stick to what we already know. This is the opposite of what many people might expect, and it challenges the idea that confidence always protects us from changing our beliefs. In some situations, it seems our confidence might actually make us more adaptable. Now, like any study, this one has its limitations. They use made-up concepts Bouba and Kiki. The researchers themselves point out that it would be interesting to see if this effect holds true for concepts that people already have strong pre-existing ideas about, like real-world categories, rather than totally new ones learned during the experiment. Also, this study focused on one specific type of environmental change. But what does this all mean for us? In the real world, it suggests that our confidence isn't just a simple on-off switch for belief change. Sometimes, being confident might be what allows us to be more fluid and responsive to a changing world, rather than making us rigid. Think about learning a new skill. If you feel confident early on, you might be more likely to jump in and adapt as you get more information. If you are constantly doubting yourself, you might stick to the first method you learned, even if it is not the most effective. It is a fascinating twist on how we think about thinking. It highlights that confidence can be a double-edged sword, sometimes making us more open to new information, and other times making us resistant. This research opens up a new avenue for understanding how we update our beliefs and concepts, and how our internal feelings about our knowledge can influence that process in ways we might not expect. It makes me wonder about situations where overconfidence might actually be beneficial for learning, not detrimental. What do you all think about these findings? Does your confidence influence how you handle change? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this dive into the mind, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more science breakdowns, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the fascinating world of psychology. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.